energy update for November. So I'm making this now on the 4th of November here in Australia, and I started off having a pretty crappy day, and so I was sitting down trying to get things done, and then those days where you just feel discombobulated and confused, or you go to one room and then you forget what you're doing, and then you try to do something and you drop something and then the water spills. It's one of those days, and I thought to myself, oh God, something must be going on up in the cosmos. And I hadn't checked in for a while because I'd been very busy. So I quickly looked it up, and of course it's a Scorpio new moon, so that made a lot of sense. So the energy kind of feels jaggedy. That's how I'll describe it, jaggedy. So there is the potential there for some sort of peace and well-being, but there's a sort of the jagged feeling is like a staticky, diagonal kind of scratchy, anxious making kind of vibe that I feel just digs up irritations or digs up anything that's sort of unhealed or unresolved or hidden kind of anger and so on. So just watch out that at this point right now, possibly for the next while, but I'll look into that in a moment, that you might feel a bit jaggedy yourself, or a bit intense or curt or quick-tempered, right? Like little mini explosions that don't take long. As I say that, I see, like in my mind's eye, they're showing me these little mini volcanoes. So instead of one big eruption, which is also possible, they're just showing me like these little mini eruptions along the way with a kind of unsteady earth. Sometimes I do get that image of like cracked landscape, like earthquake lines cracks, which is an indication of instability energy-wise, or on Earth in general. It can also represent that collective energy. Right now, we're at the very eve of a whole cycle of eclipses. So it's like we're at the angels are saying we now have the entrance ticket. They're making a bit of a joke about tickets because that seems to be a bit of a thing worldwide now. You need a certain ticket to get into certain places. They're saying, well, we've got a free ticket to entrance to this doorway opening of this eclipse season. So right now speaking, new moon, November 4th or 5th, depending on your time region. Okay, then in a couple of weeks, around the 19th of November, we have the partial lunar eclipse, and then in early December, so in a month's time from now, total solar eclipse around the 4th. Now, when I say around, it's because sometimes you need to give or take half a day or a day, depending on your time zone. And so that whole eclipse season is going to be running now for a good 2 months until the very sort of very early in January. So we're going to carry it over, the angels are saying, through the threshold of the new year. And they're joking that the threshold they're showing me as a gateway, like as in 2, because 2 is often shown like 2 posts that you would enter through. And next year has a lot of 2s in the number, being 2022. So sometimes when we give energy forecasts and updates, it's hard to keep it narrowed down to a particular time period. Sometimes there's a carrying on from one time period or another, or it's really looking holistically over a 2-3 month period, and that really can make a lot of sense in terms of what's upcoming, because now as we draw slowly closer to the new year, where there's implicit change of energies, we're now sort of, as I said in my last video, we started to dip our toes into things, but only ever so lightly, and now dipping those toes in even more. But as I was saying earlier, it does feel like there's a bit of erratic energy. This month feels like a lot of time for reflection. When I say time, it doesn't mean we all have time, just time spent on reflection. So I do see the mind as being active. This could either be, that sort of busy anxiety, overthinking and overanalyzing. So do watch out for that. It could be kind of blissful reverie or enchanted, sort of inspired thinking, or pockets of each, or it could be really having a review. It could be all of the above. And when I say review, I'm really feeling into the feeling of reviewing this last year, 2 years, 3 years, months, weeks. How much things have been stagnant, and at the same time how much they've changed and shifted from behind the scenes, like done a flip, which seems contradictory because there's been so much sense of stagnation. However, there has been an implicit sense of change at the same time, and shifting and maneuvering, and you've had to maneuver and change and make adaptations, which is very much what a 5-year is about, which is what 2021 is, being that all the digits add up to the number 5 numerologically. And now we're ending that cycle. So as much as there might be some, there's still being the feeling of shifts, and with that, irritations and sort of the potential for erraticness, depending on your journey. The angels training now, it's just a matter of hopscotching along to the next square. So they show, you throw the stone, you're on one foot, not two, because you don't quite feel grounded yet. And then you make your landing with both feet. Then you got to throw the dice again. And they just showed me now that stone turned into dice. So it's like rolling the dice, that we don't know what's upcoming. It does feel like we're just rolling the dice. You could get lucky for a moment. And otherwise it feels like an unlucky roll. Like these are the cards we've been dealt with. So taking it one step, one hopscotch square at a time as we make the transition over to the new year. December does feel busy. I think that sounds like deja vu for me, because I feel like every year I say that, but it's just because that's the energy feel, right? So not only obviously it can be busy for a lot of people, being Christmas, wrapping up the year and all that stuff. Even, with us with children at schools, and I know that December always has that kind of vibe. And I know it's different this last year or two with the global situation. However, it does feel that sense of busyness and a kind of, it feels like a step up of busyness. So if you will, in this November update, we're also leaning into December and leaning into the new year slowly, and as in each next update that will continue. I'm feeling there might be some upcoming power clashes. This could possibly be more in December, but at some point it also blends in with that erratic energy. Now, at the same time, I know that I've mentioned that word erratic energy a few times now. So I do believe and feel that there's pockets, though. There's pockets of time where there's this, and then there's pockets of time that there will be that. So there is a potential for shifts, and, when we use the word shifts energetically, you'll know it's like things have just switched around. Like you wake up one morning and you feel bright and sunny, right? But then that might change again, and the next day it's like erratic. It switches again. So we'll see how that goes for each person personally. But what I think I'll do next is I'm going to pull out a card and see what the angels might like to say to add a bit more information to everything to help us on our journey. Okay, so it's interesting. The message I'm really receiving is to step up your consciousness as we enter this new doorway period / portal of change, and see it as a portal in terms of like a tunnel of light, because through prayer, through words, consciousness words that connect with our Creator, or if you like, connect to the source of all, the energy of all, that beautiful positive side of what is real. Probably a better way to express this is the Force. I like to say that sometimes. I like to make analogies of Star Wars, because I really saw the Force as, however you like to perceive it, divine energy, the Holy Spirit, however you like to word that, source energy. So what it's showing me is to remain seated and grounded during this time of change, which really is you could say that's a permanent message, right? But to keep one's consciousness on the divine through prayer, through focus, through internal reverie. So I remember before how I was mentioning that one aspect of being reflective can be of sort of just spending those moments in reflection and reverie. So to place your consciousness on that and keep it focused on a higher energy. And it's not to say that we are ignoring lower energies, because it very much is a process now of clearing the path forward so that we can move forward. But it feels like a bumpy ride. So if I were to follow that energy line of moving forward, to me it feels bumpy. So there could be some hindrances in the way. Now as I feel the first bump, for example, my solar plexus kind of clutches tightly. So that's always my sign of the solar plexus area being, for example, of maybe feeling disempowered, or anything connected with the solar plexus, such as not feeling in control of things, or overly trying to control, or the gut intuition being compromised, all that kind of thing. I also feel a difficulty in making choices. That's actually been a bit of an ongoing theme worldwide as well, and I had to battle that myself, but I'll talk about that another time. Really interesting, because I got guided to a deck of cards which I haven't pulled for such a long time, and it's actually Mother Mary cards, and the first card that popped up there, it said grace. And only this morning I was listening to a video by Russell Brand. I like to watch Russell Brand, the actor / comedian, who makes YouTube videos on, he's really a very spiritual person, someone that I would trust in that way. And he does make sort of independent commentary about global events, which I enjoy as well. But he just did mention in a recent video the term grace. He was making an ironic comment about how something in the public sphere was termed grace, but he just gave the most beautiful definition of grace, and I actually wrote it down on my computer, and I was going to mention it another time, so I'm going to read that out now. Of course, when he said it, it filled me with goosebumps, and you could really feel the energy and the resonance through his words. He's a bit of a wordsmith, which I enjoy as well, but he did say, so grace is the very essence of knowing you are carried by some sort of divine light or flow, the grace of Christ, the love of holy force carrying us through life. So yeah, it just filled me with goosebumps, and I just really liked his little definition and explanation there. So carry yourself through this force, through this grace as a kind of energy thread, and allow that to be your guide, no matter what is going on the earth that you are fully a part of still, and not fully ignoring, because we do have to embody and process the uglier parts, right? And because, that eruption energy is there. So, and this also carrying on into December, of course. So at the end of the day, this is really speaking about God connection. So you can label God as whatever that is for you, whether you prefer a term such as source, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing, and it all links into the force, or that beautiful pure energy. So it really is now about God connection, and bringing that back in. I was receiving messages like that in March last year, when this sort of global health issue was very much kind of starting, a bit more of an introduction to everybody back then. And I've really been connected to that in this last year or two. And it's just reminding us to just keep our focus on, how shall I say it, on that source energy. Let's just put it that way. It will carry us through the rivers and the roads of life. So this month there'll be periods of time or portals of stepping into stillness, and I do feel some sensitivity arising. So notice your sensitivity, dear empaths and energy sensitives. And this is something I'm going to be speaking more and more about, most likely more, now towards in the new year. But I've really come to understand and know more than ever, for example, how energy sensitive I am and empathic. Like, I've known this for a really long time, and I talk about it, and I work in this field. And many of my online courses are going to be focused on that, but more than ever. So it's like one of those things that we've all experienced is where we know something, but sometimes we have to hear it or feel it or experience it in a different way for it really to click in or move to that next level. And that's what's been happening to me. So, and there's so many more expressions of that as well. So take note of the volatility you might be experiencing, those sort of sudden bursts of eruptions, but also take notice of your sensitivities. And I'm also feeling now in your relationships, take notice also of what's coming up for you. There'll be stuff coming up. There'll be even just memories or names from the past. You'll be, for example, why am I suddenly dreaming about this person? Or why is their name or their face coming up into my consciousness? Or that thing or that memory or whatever. This is all very much part of the cycle we're now heading towards, but also very, very commonplace for an eclipse season. So a while back I wrote a pretty comprehensive article on eclipses. So I'll place the link below this video so you can have a look at that. So more thorough information of what to expect during eclipses, what to keep in mind and what can help you in this journey. So here's an example affirmation. I step out of the way and surrender any need for control in order to make room for God's healing love to flow through me and this situation or any situations that might arise. And notice there the word surrender and control, because I mentioned control before in the solar plexus. So this is about recognizing when you're trying to control things, which is it makes a lot of sense when you think about the times that we're in. We've had so many things out of our control, and really I know this very well, being in Melbourne, because here in Melbourne, Australia, we have been under the most lockdown days out of any city in the whole entire world, over the last almost 2 years. So it's been incredibly burdening and a bit crazy. And, you'd think, why Melbourne? Interesting, out of all cities, but it all comes down to politics, actually, but that's a whole other story. But what I do want to say is I'll probably in another video do more of a personal update or mention those kinds of things, because I have been going through a lot of things and I do have things to say. So if and when I feel that I would like to share that, I will. But outside of that, I just want to send my love out to anyone who's been having a hard time recently or just over this sort of period, from 2020, anything you might have been going through, any difficulties you may have had with health. Health is also a bit of a theme. I've been going through my own health issues, so that's part of what I'll talk about down the track. And just, really an overriding message over the last while too has been to really just look after yourself, look after your health and your well-being. Really take that time and listen to the messages you're receiving and don't deny them. It's time to move out of that way, that pattern of ignoring what is right or what is needed, and trusting the voice within you and going that next step. It can feel very difficult to feel like you're in a compromising situation or to make a choice that is uncomfortable, that you perhaps are not don't feel is right, but you have no choice but to make that choice. So if you have been in that kind of situation, then completely understand and the heart's out there with you. All we can do is just do the best we can in any moment, and that's what carries me through. So remember, in truth, the light is always there, and you always are harnessing and have the ability to move that light through you and allow it to bloom and to show you and guide you the way. And that's what our angels and guides are here for as well, to show us the way, to put those little feathers in our path and the magical, lovely rainbows and coins and, all those lovely divine experiences that you have and those synchronicities. So just keep that faith burning and, do pop me a message, pop a comment to this and just, share what's going on? What are you going through? Or what are the core messages happening within you, and to trust those. And I'll be back in December with more specific information, or possibly before then. Okay, all the best, lots of love, and may the light guide your way. And the angels gave me a message recently of this phrase: the right path is the light path. So allow that to guide your way, knowing that you are on the right path when you're on the light path. And there's no rights or wrongs. It's not what it's about. It's just about knowing and understanding. Just keep on track, keep that focus, keep that light. Because when you're traveling on the right path, or that light path, things just click into place. You immediately notice the difference to the mayhem that reigned before, when you were on the darker path. And it's not to say, because we're in this world of light and dark, and that is a part of the parcel, they say. It's, it's navigating through both. It's finding our way. However, when our consciousness, our attention is placed on the light path, and underlying everything, we're knowing that that light there is given to us, provided it is a provision. They show me now like the yellow brick road, right? Follow the yellow brick road. And yellow, interestingly, is the colour of the solar plexus. So there you go, the sun, of light, of brilliance. With that, I'm very connected to the number 17 with that. So, or perhaps 1 and 7. So if those numbers have been coming up for you, connect to you in some way, take notice of that as well. And that really speaks of that same kind of thing, of being on the light path. And acknowledging yourself as a light worker in that way as well. So, the light path is really the one that carries us through and helps us survive in this world, right? And as I say that, you might have heard or not birds really twerping in the background there, just really being activated, which is that God presence, that is the divine interacting with us, speaking to us, connecting with us. And that's all part of what's available on that beautiful light path. So when things don't seem to be working out, when you feel blue, when you feel off track, when you feel like you're going through the thunderous side of things, go within, tune back into your heart. Redirect yourself to the path that is ever more flowing, joyous and smooth and light. And as you gently walk that path, you'll awake and see the signals, the divine synchronicities and the signs along the way, and they will carry you through like breadcrumbs. And ask and allow the angels to clear the path in front of you as well, to allow you to be the guide along that walkway as they help you process, deal with and clear any hindrances, lessons and learning curves along the way. And as I see that now as kind of like a rolling wheel. And the wheel is also just an eternal symbol for the movement of life, the cycles of life, right? And so we're very much now at the tail end of a cycle and moving towards it, but we've still got a bit to go.